good luck, because today Daniel is going to give you a little demonstration of his strength. Now, only a minor one, because Daniel is preparing for a challenge down in Montreal. There's a gentleman down there who says he's the strongest man. I think our Daniel can beat him, but I'll let Daniel do a demonstration, then I'll tell you about the event down in Montreal. Daniel, you ready?
Oh yeah.
Now don't overdo it.
No, it's just 200 pounds of salt. So.
Oh my. 200 pounds,
No
ladies
problem.
and gentlemen. All right, Daniel, you ready?
The pig was 7.
Easy. Look at the technique there. Whoa.
Yeah!
Wow, what a demonstration. So, off we went to Montreal. Daniel, I'll let you tell the folks how it went.
Well, the competition was not quite the same as what I'm used to with the straight lift like I did with the salt. This involves a lot more weight and a harness and pulley rig system, because there's a huge platform of solid wood with cables on each corner, and on that is hay. So the system would bring it down, and then through another set of pulleys hooked to my harness, and then I would just walk and pull it. You have to lift it at least a foot off the ground and hold it for a period of time in order for it to count. So we started out with, I believe it was 600 pounds weight on the platform. So, and very generously, my colleague from Montreal, since I was the guest, he let me go first. Not sure if that was an advantage or not. 1,400, 1,500, 1,600 pounds. It's a lot of hay. We had to keep the horses back. Pulling a train car. No, it's a. Hold it. Yes, okay. Monsieur? Couldn't do it.
Yes! Hey, for Peterborough, strong man.
In my day, if you wanted the news, the place to get it was your local newspaper. And Peterborough had 3 of them. The Peterborough Examiner, the Peterborough Review, and the Morning Times. Seems just about everyone in town subscribed to at least one newspaper. Well, my name is Percy Crane. Some may say I was born in Peterborough, but actually I was born in the village of Ashburnham. You know it as East City. Dad would read the Evening Examiner. Now, I learned to read and write at an early age, and when Dad was finished with the paper, he would pass it to me, and I read every page, even the advertisements, always asking him what this word meant or why that story was on the front page. There was one ad that always caught my eye. It was for a cure that could fix just about anything. There was even a statement saying that a lady had been sick in bed for a month and nobody knew what was wrong with her. Well, after taking this cure twice a day for 2 weeks, her health was completely restored. And I told my dad we should get some of that just in case one of us gets sick. That was the first time I ever heard anyone say, "Don't believe everything you read." When I was 19, I got my first job working in the newspaper business as a reporter for the Peterborough Review. It was no longer just reading the news. I was reporting it. Hey, have a look at this. The Evening Examiner, January 19th, 1910. Right here. Peterborough was free from crimes of a serious nature during the past year. Police Chief Rizal had reported to police commissioners that 1909 was a quiet year in the city. By the way, you'll get to meet the police chief a little later on the tour. Well, 1910 started off anything but quiet. During a robbery, a young man from England named Robert Henderson struck two ladies from Norwood with an axe. And when one of them died, he was charged with murder. What a year for reporting that turned out to be. Now, by that time, I had moved over to reporting for the Peterborough Examiner. And did I mention that was 60 hours a week at a salary of $500 per year. Unfortunately, in 1914, the First World War broke out. Employees at the Quaker plant were working round the clock to produce food for our troops. The men in the boiler room were constantly shoveling coal into the boilers, keeping them hot. December 11th, 1916. One of the hot boilers exploded and a massive fire occurred. We were all used to the smell of oats, but this time it was the smell of burnt oats that filled the air. 22 people died in that fire. And 2 died later as a result of their injuries. It was the most tragic event Peterborough had ever seen. By the way, you'll get to meet 2 of the ladies who were working at the plant at the time of the fire just a little later on. And forgive me, please, if I'm reporting a little bit too much about the tour, but it is hard to take the reporting out of a reporter. On November the 11th, 1918, every newspaper announced that the First World War had ended. And I watched as the headlines rolled off the presses at the Globe and Mail in Toronto, where I was then working. My mother had passed away earlier that year, and whenever I could, I would return home to Sophia Street and share stories about Toronto with the rest of the family. In fact, the Globe and Mail would report my visits home to Peterborough in the social pages.
For over 30 years, I worked in this cemetery. See, my name is Alfred Rippingale. Now, I was born in 1872 in the little village of Gestingthorpe, which is about 50, maybe 60 miles northeast of London in Essex County. My dream was to one day own a farm of my own. I knew the odds were against that ever happening. At age 22, I married Agnes Mary Corder, and within 4 years, we had 3 children, Stanley, Benjamin, and Lily. Cool, life was a challenge, but we made the most of what we had. Unfortunately, Agnes passed away when she was only 30 years old. Well, working on a farm and trying to raise 3 children by myself became increasingly difficult. Well, I started to think, hey, maybe my family would be better off in Canada. In 1906, I married for a second time, and with my new bride Elizabeth, I convinced my family we should make the move. So in July of 1912, we set sail for Quebec aboard the ship Ascania. We were bound for Peterborough, a city of approximately 19,000 people. God, life in Peterborough was peaceful. Well, that is, until the Great War broke out in 1914. Then all of a sudden it seemed like everybody in Peterborough was doing all they could to support the war effort. Well, my boy Stanley, he felt the same way. So in November of 1915, he joined the Canadian Expeditionary Force, 57th Regiment. Now Stanley and Benjamin, they did everything together, so it came as no surprise when Benjamin joined the same regiment a few months later. Here, I've got a picture that was taken in front of our house over on Parnell Street. I don't know if you can see it from there. Can you see it? You see, it shows the boys in their uniforms. How handsome they looked. Both were filled with a determination and a sense of duty that overshadowed any thoughts of danger. We were so proud of them. July 1917. My boys were serving in France. I heard a knock on the door. I wasn't expecting anybody. So I went over and I opened it. I saw the look on the messenger's face. And I knew. I saw the telegram. And I knew what was in it. I took it. And I opened it. And I read, "Regret deeply, Private Stanley Rippingale and Private Benjamin Rippingale have been officially reported killed in for a moment I didn't think my legs would hold me up." I started working here at Little Lake Cemetery as a gardener and a grave digger. Sometimes I'd look around and remind me of Essex. And other times I'd look around and it would remind me of my boys buried in France. Maybe it was because I'd already decided this was going to be my final resting place, but whatever the reason, as soon as I got here, I felt this is where I belonged.